Hello, welcome to More Yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're doing well, getting slowly-ish back into the swing of things. I don't know. I don't even know what day it is right now. I'm assuming it's a Wednesday because I taught yoga earlier today. Uh, but such is the way of days these days, right? They're a bit weird. So sometimes yoga can help with that, right? To mm, the best way to think about it is that the benefits of yoga, though awesome physical benefits while on the mat, it's not about what you do on the mat. It's about how you take it off and into the world, right? It's the ability to use what we do here in our lives, right? So I always like to think of like the best student at yoga isn't someone who can get their face to the floor in full splits. It's the person who doesn't react when they get cut off when you're driving. Right? That is the true uh, practitioner of yoga. So I don't really know where I'm going with this, but let's start lying down if you'd like to be there on your back. Of course, if you'd like to start seated, you're welcome to start seated, and then eventually you'll make your way down. And depending on how your day has been, you might need to take some time to get some wiggles out or, find a settle yourself on the mat. Sometimes you might need to, let some tension release. And I recommend taking a little loop of your shoulder blades toward each other on your back, just so your heart can open. Right, the shoulders can open a little bit. And then for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. And exhale, sigh your breath away. A couple more. And then continue breathing however feels best for you. It could be in and out through your nose or your mouth. Notice how your breath is flowing. What does that mean? Well, how does it feel? How does it sound? And it's normal for your mind to start chasing thoughts when you notice that happening. Acknowledge whatever thought you might be having, but then bring it back to your breath. And sometimes I find it helpful, particularly if my mind really likes to race around on any given day, to just repeat it mentally in my head, once on the inhale, once on the exhale. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. And that repetition becomes a bit of a touchstone, right? A way to keep the mind focused. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. Last couple of breaths here. And then let go of that repetition if you're using it. And start to bring a little bit of movement back to your body. Whatever way feels best for you here to wake up. Could be a big yawning stretch, or it could be a little wiggle of your fingertips or toes until you feel ready to draw your knees in toward your chest and take a little rock from side to side. You could have your knees quite close toward your chest, getting the massage more in the mid back, or the knees could be further away from you, maybe even arm's length away from you, getting into the base of the pelvis. All right, and then come back to center. I want you to interlace your hands over top of the right leg, point your toes, and release your left foot to the floor. Now, as you're here, really press your low back into the earth, and then switch. Keep pressing your low back into the earth, and then switch. So we're going to keep doing this, holding about for 1 second each time we switch. Now, option to stay here. Next option would be to curl your shoulder blades, your head up off the earth. And then the next option would be to extend whatever leg away from you that you're not clasping, but only so far as you can, right? Until you feel like you have to lose that space in the low back. So keep pressing your low back into the floor. Keep switching. Here we go. Last 3, 2, 1, and then come back to center, a little rock from side to side. All right, and then reach your legs up to the sky. You're gonna keep your head down on the earth for this one, arms down beside you, palms maybe pressing into the earth. And then same thing, I want you to keep your lower back pressed into the earth as much as you can, and slowly lower your legs together away from you. But again, only so far as you can until you feel like you lose that connection, and then bring them back up. So slowly lower them down and exhale to come back up. And then maybe you test the distance on each one. Maybe you go a little bit further. And I know it's the start of January. You might not be going very far at all. And you don't need to force yourself to go further, because even a little ways, you'll start to feel this. Okay, last one here. And then come back to center. Hug your knees into your chest. Little rock from side to side. All right. Reach your legs up to the sky. Grab behind the right leg and reach the left leg down. And then switch. So this time the legs are going to be extended. Keep pressing your low back into the earth. Keep extending through the legs as much as you can. Now, if that means that your legs are trembling, then obviously bend your knees. Next option would be to curl the shoulder blades and the head up off the earth as we do these sort of very exaggerated flutter kicks. Couple more. Last 3, 2, 1. Ooh, hug your knees back into your chest, little rock from side to side. All right, we've got 2 more things left to do. I promise, I'm sorry. 2 more things left to do. All right, first one, you're gonna extend your legs away from you and reach them up, and then lift your your upper back up off the floor. Reach the arms overhead, and then sweep them around, and then hug your knees toward you. And then reach the legs away, the arms overhead, sweep the arms around, and draw your knees toward your chest. A couple more of these. Legs, arms, sweep, and grab. Legs, arms, sweep, and grab. By all means, at any point, you can release your head to the earth. You can bend your knees. They don't need to be straight. Last one. Legs, arms, sweep, hold, snug, 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 and then release down to the floor. Little wiggle or rock from side to side. All right. Now the last one. Interlace your hands, bring them behind your head or behind your ears if you wish. And then bring your knees into sort of a Pilates tabletop position. Press your lower back into the floor, curl up, and then twist your right elbow to your left knee. As you do that, release your right toes to the floor, and then switch. And then switch. So option to stay here, option to extend the other leg away from you. So very similar to the first exercise that we were doing, but this time we've got a crossbody twist in it instead of the grab. A few more of these. Last 3, 2, 1. All right, back to center. Whew, little rock from side to side. You might grab the backs of your thighs and rock and roll up and down your spine. If that doesn't feel good, roll to one side, make your way to hands and knees, and we'll set up for cat and cow. So what did we learn just now that you can bring off the mat? Well, maybe the next time you see me, you're going to kill me. That's what you learned. Or maybe you learned just to go with the flow. Not a big deal. Maybe we didn't learn anything. That's okay. Knees underneath hips, toes tucked or untucked. And then hands outer shoulder width, apart or wider. And cat and cow will feel really good after all those core exercises. Inhale, lift the tailbone. Hollow through the lower back. Oh, that feels good. And then exhale, tuck your tailbone under, round through the spine when you press the floor away from you. Inhale into cow. Exhale, round into cat. So a few more of these on your own time, on your own breath. As always with cat and cow, if there's any other natural movement that would feel good here, feel free to add on. Maybe a little wag of your tail from side to side, or some barrel rolls through your chest. Maybe you just pause in cow and really enjoy that release for the abs. All right. And then come back to center. Walk your hands forward if you need to, or your knees back, and then shift your weight into your hands for plank, either from your knees or from your toes. Just for a couple breaths, squeeze your bum, squeeze the tops of the thighs. And then as you exhale, lower all the way down to the earth. Little wiggle of your hips from side to side. And then untuck your toes. Press the tops of the feet into the floor, so much so you might feel your kneecaps lift away. Send your tailbone to the back wall. Feel your belly button engage toward your spine. Wrap your shoulder blades onto your back, legs really strong. Inhale, lift your heart forward and up, baby cobra. Exhale, lower back down. Couple more of these. Now, the natural tendency, particularly if you're new to this movement, is to want to lift the legs up as well, but I want you to really think of rooting them down. Last couple here. One last breath. Inhale, lift. Exhale, down. All right. Bring one cheek to the earth. Take deep belly breaths to release to the low back. And then press your hands into the earth. Send your hips all the way back to your heels. For child's pose, your knees could be together, your knees could be wide. If your hips are up quite high from your heels, you could bring a pillow in between your heels and your bum to give yourself a little bit more support there, or a pillow underneath your chest. You could stack your fists underneath your forehead to give yourself a little bit of lift. Right, go wherever you need to go. Take one more deep inhale through the nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. All right, slowly make your way back to hands and knees for a moment. Make sure your hands are nice and wide, outer shoulder width apart or wider. Tuck your toes, and then exhale, lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. And go ahead and pedal out the heels if you want to here, or wag your tail from side to side. Maybe this is your first downward facing dog of 2022, in which case, it might feel pretty different from the last one you did. So just go where you need to go. And then hug your upper arm bones toward each other a little bit more. Grip the mat with your finger pads. And then bend your knees. Look forward. On your exhale, walk, step, or hop to the top edge of your mat, standing forward fold. Knees could be deeply bent here. You might even rest your elbows on your thighs. You could clasp opposite elbows with hands. You might bring blocks or a coffee table or something like that underneath your hands, just to bring the floor up to you and go where you need to go. But make sure your knees are micro bent or even deeply bent. The straighter your legs are, the more tension you will actually generate in your low back rather than releasing tension. All right. And then release your hands. Bring your fingertips to your shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Couple more. And then bend your knees, tuck your chin into your chest. Slowly start to roll up to standing. Maybe one vertebra at a time. Till eventually you come all the way up. Couple loops of your shoulders. Up, back, and down. A little wiggle, noodle, or shake out. You might even bring your hands to your hips, bend your knees, take a couple of hip circles one direction. And then the other. All right. Now bring your feet hip width apart, parallel-ish, and then let's sit into chair pose. I was going to say something fancy, but no, let's just go to chair pose. So hips go down and back, right? Tailbone down slightly till you feel your belly button engage toward your spine. And then make sure your knees aren't caving in. You want to send them out to the baby toe edges of your feet. Hands could be in prayer or cactus, or maybe in this sort of traditional lightning bolt position. But if by raising the arms, your torso starts to fall, back out of the arms, right? Because we want hips low, heart high. So wherever you can maintain that position with the spine, knees keep pressing out. Make sure when you look down, you can see all 10 toes, maybe even de-weight them. All right, inhale, come all the way up and shake out your legs. All right, grab your right wrist, bend your knees a little bit, and pull over to the left. Tuck your tailbone under, round through the spine. So getting into that right side of the body. And then inhale, come back to center. Let's switch sides. Grab the left wrist, pull over to the right. Bend your knees, round through your spine. And then inhale, come back to center. Shake it out a little bit. All right, come back to the top edge of your mat if you're not already there. And then inhale, sweep your arms up to the sky. Exhale, dive or fold down to the earth. Forward fold. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, little partway lift. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees enough that you can plant your hands and then step your right leg back behind you. You're going to release your knee to the floor. So if you want some padding, you can go ahead and bring some extra padding underneath that right knee. And on your inhale, come up to half kneeling or your lunge, right? If you prefer to go into the yoga variation of Anjaneyasana, feel free to go where you'd like to go. Otherwise, join me back out of the hips to start with. Hug the legs toward each other. Squeeze the bum on that back leg like crazy. Belly button to spine, shoulder blades on your back. Maintain all that as you start to shift forward. All right, so you can see I'm not nearly as deep into my lunge as I could be. And if it's the front knee is wobbly, rather, you can drive the front heel into the floor. And you might play with the back toes tucked or untucked, but I really want you to squeeze the bum on the back leg. You could rest your palms on the front thigh. Make sure they're not sort of pressing up to your shoulders though, or sorry, your ears. You might even press the palms away from you to send your torso back, getting even more extension at the hip. One more breath here. All right, on your exhale, send your hips back as you extend through the front leg for half splits. If you have a wall, you can use a wall for support, or maybe hands on hips, or if you have blocks, you could use blocks, or maybe fingertips on the floor. If you don't have a wall or blocks and it's quite wobbly, bend your knee a little bit more so that you can bring your fingertips to the floor so that you have the stability. You don't have to fight to find the stretch. And then wrap your back hip forward and draw your front hip back. It's almost going to feel like you're trying to drag your front heel back toward you. A little micro bend or even a deep bend on the front knee. And then flare the toes on the front foot. Peel them back toward your face even more. So you're really getting into the calf muscles as well as the hamstrings. And then you might stay tall with a long spine. Some of you might be draping forward. Some of you I know might be in full splits. But go where you need to go. All right. On your inhale, rock forward again. Bring both hands inside your front foot and heel and toe it out wider and on an angle so your toes can be off the edge of your mat. And then allow your hips to shift forward, but without just hanging out here. All right, so feel a little hug of the legs back to the center line. Your hips will lift up slightly as you do this. Take your right hand out a little bit wider, or maybe up on a block if you have one. Inhale here, and exhale, twist and open to the left. You could just bring a hand to the left thigh if you wish, or you might open up. Some of you might even reach around for a grab of the back foot. Now it's completely secondary, but go where you need to go. Right? Anywhere along the way. All right. If you have the back foot, release it, and then plant your hands, tuck your back toes, and step forward into your standing forward fold. A little wiggle or bounce or sway. Fingertips to shins. Inhale, a little part, way lift. Exhale, fold. On your inhale, step your left leg back this time. For lunge, gently release your knee to the floor or some padding. And on your inhale, come up to half kneeling. Again, you might want to back out of the hips to start with. Hug the legs toward each other. Really squeeze the bum on the back leg. Nice tall posture, maintaining all that as you start to shift forward into the front knee. Again, back toes could be untucked or tucked, but wherever you are, really squeeze the bum on the back leg. Again, you might press your palms forward to send your torso back, getting even more extension at the hip. So that little core burner at the start was just kind of a sneaky thing, right? The rest of this is hopefully feeling like nice stretching. Those are my quotation marks for nice. Interesting stretches. Fitness good. Last breath here. All right, shift your hips back as you extend through your front leg for your half splits. Again, hands can be wherever they need to be. And then wrap the outer left hip forward as you draw the outer right hip back. Again, micro bend through that front knee. Flare the toes on the front foot and then peel them back toward your face even more. Just because I can touch the floor with my fingers doesn't mean it necessarily feels like the best place for me to be. And again, it's almost as if you're trying to drag your front heel back toward you. Really active stretch for the hamstrings and the calf muscles. Last breath here. All right, sweet. Slowly start to rock forward again into that front foot. Bring both hands inside the front foot and then heel and toe it out wider and on an angle, toes off the edge of the mat. And then shift your hips forward, again, without just hanging out. So there's that little hug of the legs back to the center line. You might take your left hand out a little bit wider and bring your right hand to the front thigh. Or maybe you open it up and twist to the right Maybe you reach around for the back foot. And it's pretty common to accidentally cramp through the hamstrings as you do this. So if that's you, don't worry about it. And again, go where you need to go, whatever it looks like for you on this side. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly unwind. And then let's try that funky transition again. Tuck the back toes, step forward, standing forward, fold. A little wiggle or bounce. And then inhale, a little part way lift. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees, plant your hands, come down to hands and knees. Again, little wiggle or shake. And then shift your hips on one side. Swing your legs forward. And then plant your feet in front of you. Bring your hands behind you. Fingertips point back. And then wrap your elbows, your shoulder blades toward each other. Lift your heart up to the sky. This might be enough if you're not feeling much. Excuse me, then press into your hands and feet and shift your hips forward toward your heels. Then wrap your elbows and your shoulder blades toward each other. Lift your heart up to the sky. Now you might be feeling this a lot more in the chest, across the front of the shoulders. Last few breaths here. And then gently bend your elbows. Release, shake out the arms. And then one last little sneaky core thing, tuck your tailbone under. Maybe you do a Pilates style roll down to the mat. You can hold the back of your thighs. If you're done, then just flop back. And then once you're down on your back, draw your knees into your chest and take a little rock from side to side. You have time for just one quick twist. So take your right arm out to the side, maybe shift your hips right, and then exhale, lower your knees to the left. As always, as gentle or as deep of a twist as you need. You could stack your knees, cross the legs, take a single leg twist, right wherever you need to go. Might feel good on your core after that little burner at the start. All right, and then inhale, return to center. Reset your pelvis, your spine, maybe shift your hips left arm out to the side. Exhale, lower your knees to the right. Again, as gentle or as deep of a twist as you need. And it doesn't have to be the same variation on this side that you did on the first. Last breath here. Inhale, return to center. And if there's anything else you feel like you need before your rest, maybe a happy baby or some sort of spinal flexion or extension, feel free to go where you need to go. Otherwise, make your way into your final resting pose, which could be flat on your back, legs bent or straight in Shavasana. You could rest on your side or in child's pose or a seated meditation. And there's no rush to get there. But once you have found your pose of rest for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose and exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then let go of your breath control. And let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in your neck or your jaw. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. Thoughts may come and go. Acknowledge them without judgment, but let them go. Let them drift by you like snowflakes on the wind. And stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.